good evening, and thank you for joining us for tonight's Noonan-Coweta Chamber of Commerce forums featuring candidates running on the local, state, and national level, and all coming up on the November 6th general election ballot. Coweta County voters are going to be able to cast their vote in this year's general elections on November 6th, with advanced voting beginning October 15th. Chamber forums on September 24th featured candidates for Georgia's 3rd District, U.S. House of Representatives, and 2 state legislative races from districts here in Coweta County. Our forums tonight, Tuesday, September 25th, feature a number of local city elections throughout Coweta County in the cities of Grantville, Sharpsburg, and Noonan. They're intended to give voters an opportunity to hear the views of candidates on issues faced by citizens in their communities. We thank our candidates for being here tonight, and we thank them for standing for public office. Thank you also to the Central Educational Center for providing tonight's setting, CEC's broadcast students and Michael Britt and New Link Channel 10 for recording and broadcasting this year's forums, and thanks to Coweta Fayette EMC for sponsoring these forums, as well as the Chamber's political hobnob on October 11th. Our format for tonight's forums will be similar to those held by the Chamber of Commerce each election year. Each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute opening and closing statement. Our candidates will have up to 1 minute to respond to a series of questions. After the final candidate gives his answer to a question, a 30-second rebuttal will be allowed if the candidates elect. Our candidates will also be signaled when they have just a little time remaining. One final note: the Noonan-Coweta Chamber of Commerce is a nonpartisan organization and does not endorse candidates for office. Questions have been submitted by chamber members and apply equally to all candidates. We ask that our guests at tonight's forum also respect that neutrality and the dignity of this occasion in general by refraining from any demonstration for or against any candidate. We ask that they hold their applause or any show of support or opposition during our forum, even for issues that they feel strongly about. Our occasion tonight is meant to give these candidates a chance to speak for themselves as they seek election to these posts. We appreciate our audience's respect for their opportunity to do so uninterrupted. And with that, we'll begin our forum. Our first forum of the evening is for City Council District 1, Post A in the city of Noonan. And we have in front of me candidates Walter Krauth, Paul Guillaume, and Greg Heller, all of whom are vying for the seat formerly held by Councilman Clayton Hicks. We would like to thank every one of our candidates for coming here tonight, and again, we thank you also for running for this important post. I just want to mention that I'm joined by Chelly Phillips, right over my left shoulder here, Coweta Fayette EMC, who's going to serve as tonight's timekeeper. And thank you, Ms. Phillips, for doing that. Gentlemen, as I mentioned to you earlier, we're going to open our forum with 2-minute statements in just a moment, followed by a series of questions with 1-minute answers, and the opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal after each one gets, or all 3 of you get through answering those. We're also going to stagger our questions throughout the evening, so none of you are going to have to answer first or last each time. And so in just a few moments, I think Mr. Krauth is going to be the first of our candidates to make his 2-minute opening statement. And then we'll go to Mr. Guillaume and Mr. Heller, and we'll kind of follow that pattern with Mr. Guillaume answering first on the next question, Mr. Heller answering first on the next question, and so on throughout the evening. So again, gentlemen, thank you very much, and we'll get started with our opening statements. Each of you, by the way, should use some portion of your opening statement. Tell us a little bit about yourself personally and professionally, and tell us why you have chosen to seek this office. Mr. Krauth, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Greetings to all who are here tonight. I am Walter Krauth, and I am seeking the Noonan City Council seat. I give thanks to all you who've worked really hard to put this show on. Your efforts are appreciated. I think it's great that young kids are working on this. My goal for being on the City Council is to continue the great work that has occurred up to this point. I believe that the city has a superb quality of life with good health and comfort and happiness. I see prosperity when I see homes and business, and I see branding when I see movie sets around the town. I believe that home ownership is vital to the person, the community, and the local economy. To the individual or the family, it represents security, a piece of the American dream, a stake in the ground, happiness. To the community, it represents investment, increase volunteerism, improve health, and less crime into the local economy, homeowners tend to buy more goods and services in their local economy and offer local businesses the opportunity to have a customer for life. We need to strengthen homeownership by having a local homestead exemption on property taxes. Secondly, I believe that we should strengthen homeownership by doing all that is necessary to protect the home and the family that lives in that home. One problem is noticeable by many is speeders on the streets. There are a variety of items that the city can do other than posting a cop on the street or installing speed bumps. Solutions called traffic calming devices include radar detection flashback signs, changing the road surface at crosswalks. These traffic calming ideas are effective and quite affordable to install. And that's my reason for running for the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Guillaume, your opening statement.
First off, I'd like to thank the Chamber for putting this forum together and all of those working behind the scenes and giving us this opportunity to share our perspectives. I'd like to thank Mr. Kraut and Mr. Heller for their running for this important position, as it demands time and commitment, especially as our city is growing and expanding. I would also like to salute Mr. Heller as he continues to serve our great nation. Appreciate your service. We have lived in Noonan for 14 years. A little bit about myself. I enjoy playing golf at Summer Grove Golf Course, where I'm a member. Yard work and landscaping is around my home is my relaxation therapy. I'm a veteran, United States Army, Military Police, Canine Corps. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Cindy, who is a retired Delta flight attendant. Recently, I retired after 8 years as a realtor, working with clients, investing in real estate and finding property, estimating the scope of rehab work, as well as oversight of those projects, as well as property management. I was a sales rep for DuPont Surfaces, which consisted of sales training and marketing for such companies as Home Depot, Lowe's, custom builders, kitchen dealers, fabricators in South and Central Florida, as well as Georgia and the South Tennessee markets. I managed a paint store in historic downtown Orlando during its revitalization program, working with builders, remodeling contractors, painting contractors, small business owners, artists, and homeowners. I've served in the past as the president of our homeowners association, conducting meetings, ratifying budgets, interviewing and negotiating with vendors and contractors, forming committees and oversight of those committees. I currently serve as the chairman of our ARC committee. My wife and I, we love Noonan. It is our home, and we have chosen to retire and live here. I'm running for city council for one reason, and that is to serve. And I believe my life and the career experiences will assist me in making informed, solution-driven decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Heller, your opening statement.
Yeah, first off, thanks to the Chamber for having us here. And thank you to the CEC students. So this is very close to my heart. Most of these guys I've met are 10th graders, and I used to be a 10th grade teacher. So I think it's fabulous. I think this is a wonderful opportunity. I want to thank the gentleman for being here. I think our participation in this is what makes the democratic process working, and it's good to see. And then Paul, nice shout out to me. Thank you for your service as well. I was an MP when I first started as well, so we've got that going for us. A little bit about me. I might be a little off the cuff just because that's like how I like to do things. The lectern scares me. I was a teacher, so I like to move. I'll promise to behave tonight. But a little bit about me, professional and personal. Professionally, I am the Senior Enrollment Manager at the University System of Georgia. I'm recently taking that helm for the University System's eCampus program, working with dual enrollment, military enrollments, traditional enrollments for the online platform for the university system and their programs. Formerly, I've also been a business owner, a business manager, an educator. I worked in Fulton County Schools as a teacher, teaching world history, and a couple other various defense jobs. Paul led on. I've 12-year veteran so far of the United States Army Reserve, deployed twice in OEF-based areas, and I currently still serve in that capacity, jumping out of airplanes on a weekend. The thing that brings me here is the stake in the game that I have. We moved to Noonan not 20 years ago, not 30 years ago. I'm not that old. But I have 2 young daughters who are going to grow up in this city, and my call to service that I've done my entire life has brought me to want to continue to do that. They're 5 and going to be 5 and going to be 3, and they're going to grow up in this city. And the quality of life that we have here, I want to see continue to grow. I want to see it prosper. I look to doing that through simple measures and things like that focus on creating a strong, modernized workforce for the area. Investing smartly into education and collaborating with people on education, infrastructure, all those things that the city backbone really needs to do. I don't play petty politics or silly games. I'm not a very good politician. I literally do this because I have been called to serve, and I work for my neighbors, and that's what I want to do.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Our first question, by the way, Mr. Gill, you'll be the first one to answer this one. Our first question is really kind of a follow-up to your opening statements. All of you referenced your life and work experience. Take a minute each and kind of expand on that. Tell us specifically how your work experience, your business or professional experience would likely guide your decision-making as a member of the Newnan City Council. Mr. Guillaume, I'll ask you first.
Great question. Being in sales and working in South Florida and Central Florida and in the Georgia and the Tennessee markets, it's afforded me, and also working in real estate, searching out property for my clients in the South Fulton and South Fulton, Clayton, and Henry and Coweta counties. I've been able to travel around in many cities and observed through the travel how they go about density, traffic, ordinances, and zoning, which all contribute to the growth and the value of the community. So those experiences will help me, and also working with really small businesses throughout those areas and helping them grow their business. So helping them grow their business, as well as observing what not to do in growth, as well as what we can do in growth, I believe will help me in my success as the city council.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Heller, same question.
Yeah. So for about the past 5-6 years, I've actually, in the Army, I'm a civil affairs officer. So what that means is that I'm a liaison between the United States Army, the Department of Defense, and the Department of State, as well as our foreign partners or allies, or our foreign entities that we're working with. My job is literally to manage infrastructure and offer governmental guidance to cities, government officials, Department of Defense officials. So I've seen and done work that I know our city will never get down to needing that. So I think just being able to identify and know kind of what goes into making a strong, livable, lovable city, and then being able to manage those processes. Over the past 10 years, every job I've had, I've been a project manager, working in some form of project or management type of role. And I take a strong look at process. A lot of the things are pretty simple. Cities always contain the same types of things. Everybody wants you want strong roads, you want good governance, you want good public safety and public health. It's how do you get those things and what are the processes that you go through to get there. And those are the things that I know.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Krause, same
Yes,
question
sir.
to you, please, sir.
Well, in my professional career, I am certified as an expert witness in eminent domain, and my graduate work was in urban land planning. So when what happens is that in government, particularly in city government, you got everything from the garbage can down to deciding what a zoning case has to do. And a lot of times that all is based upon highest and best use. In the eminent domain world, in the real estate world, you testify as to what the process is going to be, how the future is going to predict itself, what's going to happen with the road improvements. And those items right there are part of what we've been doing for years. Secondly, I've been running companies my whole life. I mean, I've been president and CEO of just about everything I've ever been a part of. In the corporate world, I've made it all the way to vice president, assistant to the chairman. So those items have given me leadership skills and ability to just move forward and understand how to move forward. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir. We'll go to our next question. Mr. Heller, you're going to be the first to answer this one. I'd like to shift, obviously, to talk about your vision for the city of Newnan, so to speak. It's often said, you know, we've been talking about economic development or building quality of life in the community. that if you're not moving forward, you're slipping back. City of Newnan has taken some pretty significant steps over the last several years, such as, just to name a few, the city's new law enforcement center on Jefferson Street, fire department improvements, expansion of streetscapes and other projects like that downtown, new recreational spaces, and the construction of McIntosh Parkway, among many other projects. What do you see, just keeping those things, but perhaps other more subtle things in mind, what do you see as the next most important steps for the city in the coming years? Mr. Heller.
Yeah, good question. So yeah, we've grown quite a bit since I started coming here, when my in-laws moved down here, to when we moved here, and everything that's gone for them. And I think it's fabulous. It's what we've learned to love about the area, and it's why we've stayed, and it's why people are going to continue to want to come down here. And I think that when we talk about those things, like the next steps for us is to understand that those things are great and those things are going to do well for us. But it's understanding what the balance is on that, and then how to smartly invest, smartly grow, and smartly control that growth, so that you don't end up overproducing or creating an imbalance of things that you might not want to see. I mean, whether it's the effects of, is it going to be traffic? Is it what types of employment? What other types of opportunities are there? And are they sustainable? So I really think taking a look at the balance of what goes on, and then just having that foresight and taking that city's vision, working with, you're not a vacuum. The city council is not a one-man show. It's not a one organization show. There are many people involved. Getting together and saying, where do we, with the work of the people, where do we want ourselves to go, and how are we going to get there?
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Krause, same question.
Question is about what you see happening in the city of Newnan. We're probably the medical capital of the area. We've got 2 hospitals, and you got a 3rd hospital that's been trying to figure out what to do with. Under that scenario, you're going to see a higher and higher degree of medical information, medical process taking place. Expansion of the treatment center is going to happen. There's always been talk here and there about the city of Piedmont Hospital becoming a trauma center, which again adds more medical power to it. So what will happen is that you're going to see a high development of that, and that's going to take place. Infrastructure-wise, that's going to require some pretty interesting infrastructure. Primarily, it's going to take fiber optics. You got to move information from point A to point B. We got to come up with ways to move the highway. So we have the road improvements, you have the exits, you got the hospitals, and what will happen is you become a regional center for all kinds of trauma for those items, and we'll move forward on that. If we get the hospital, if you figure out a way to use the other hospital out there on Hospital Road and becomes a medical center, you're going to see a tremendous growth take place.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Guillaume, same question.
What I see for the city of Newnan is, I would define it as responsible growth, and both of my city's candidates have referred to that. And I think it's important that we're able and know how to hit the pause button at times, because one of the things we don't want to see is the sudden growth where it causes a tremendous density, and you've got traffic, and as I've been out speaking with people and what are their concerns, for example, it is about keeping the quaintness of Newnan. It is about the quality of life, and quite frankly, the mission statement for the City Council is to make sure that the services and programs provide a quality of life for all Newnan citizens. So I think as we move forward, we must take a hard look at some of the planning and the zoning, what's going to create an impact. And with the impact that we're talking about, it's also going to provide a strain on the school system as well. So we need to be aware of multifaceted things inside of our community, just as we grow, and just to grow for the sake of growth.
Thank you, sir. I said I'd afford you all an opportunity for rebuttal if necessary. Mr. Heller, would you care to rebut? Or Mr. Krause? All right, we'll move on to our next question then. Talk about some of the same things that all of you alluded to a bit in the last couple of comments. On Monday night, the Newnan City Council voted to deny an application for rezoning for the development of Brookside at McIntosh, 96-unit townhouse-style apartment complex at the corner of Greason Trail and McIntosh Parkway. What did you think about that issue, and what do you think more generally is important in considering the future of residential growth in the city of Newnan? And Mr. Krause, I believe you start on this one.
Be excellent. First, that property is going to come back up for rezoning, so it's inappropriate to speak specifically about that particular zoning because there's going to be a public hearing on it. And in a public hearing, there's oppositions and there's facts that are placed. And you can't really express an opinion on how you would vote on a particular piece of property in advance because it's just inappropriate. As far as dealing with it, I thought that two things took place. I thought the Planning Commission did an excellent job in presenting the facts. And I think that one of the things that's taking place is coming up is this new housing study. And I think they're going to get some facts because they're going to talk about a variety of systems, a variety of things taking place. I think that the councilman here, I think his object is a little bit of a speed bump into it and looking at trying to slow that down and get a moratorium until you get the study done is probably a good idea. As far as the density, once again, it comes back to highest and best use. I mean, you look at a piece of property. If you got a piece of property that's surrounded by 5 subdivisions, obviously the highest and best use is single-family residential. Easiest way to fix that problem is to try to work out a negotiation on something like that. Just talk to people. I'm sure you can find some common ground amongst the people.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Guillaume, same question.
Would you mind repeating the question, please?
Yeah, certainly. I referenced the Newnan City Council's vote to deny an application for rezoning for the development of Brookside at McIntosh, but I also asked what you thought about that issue. I thought Mr. Krause's comments were very fair on that. Sure. But also more generally, what do you think is important in considering the future of residential growth in the city of Newnan?
The future of residential growth, from my real estate background, I think homes and the quality of homes is important. One thing that I look at, and when a project comes in, Mr. Krause talked about highest and best use. It's a great term, but oftentimes what can happen is what seems to be highest and best use at that particular time may not fit with inside the community, that particular community. So what I look at is what's the effect it's going to have on traffic, on the density, on those perimeters, and the weight that it's going to put upon the infrastructure as well as our first responders. There's all part of that on the school system. How is it going to affect that? Because the more dense we get, for example, the more weight it's going to put on and demand upon those response. And so we need to be keenly aware, and I think it's important that sometimes we know just how to hit the pause button. As far as the vote goes, I understand it was a 5-1 or 5-0 vote, so that tells me something that they're looking at this thing really hard.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Heller, same question.
Yeah, much like my colleagues up here, my opinion on it, I think the council made a fair decision about holding off on it. It will come up again. I mean, it's a parcel of land that's up for discussion. I think when you look at all the facts, and I don't have all the facts to make a definitive statement on it, I don't think it would be appropriate to do that anyway, would be that, again, you have to look at what's needed and what's appropriate to be putting into the city or building. And at this time, I don't know, and I think the council made a fair call on the why as to their decisions. When you look at things like affordable housing, low-income housing, or mixed-use housing, or single residential properties and things like that, I'm interested and excited to see this housing study because I think that's actually the proper way to go about it, is understanding where we are at on density as well as where we are at on capacity for things as Paul had mentioned, with our school systems, infrastructure, all those things that go along with it, as well as just determining, is it a need or is it just another venture for someone else to make some money? We have neighborhoods that are still empty and still in use of buildings, so I think until we can fulfill some of those, it's an individual look.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Rebuttal, Mr. Krause? Very good. Let's move on to our next one. Next one's about the city's link trail. Work began this year on the first segment of the City of Newnan's link trail system. The Link Master Plan has presented a blueprint for trail development for the next, I think, 15 or so years, estimated, with a goal to build approximately 5 miles of link trail within the next 3 years and up to 25 miles overall, linking various parts of the City of Newnan. What's your position on this project, and what's your position on recreation improvements in general in the City of Newnan, Mr. Guillaume?
Great question again. Well, I've lived in cities where they've started these projects in Orlando and other parts in South Florida. And what I've noticed is the impact that it has upon and the variety that it does for those who like outdoor and access to get to different points within the city. Matter of fact, where I live, that trail goes right behind us, this first phase. So from my perspective, it's a great thing. My only, I guess, maybe concern or whatever is the cost of completion and then the rollout of the mileage and over the next few years, but I certainly support it, and I think always within the community there's a draw to it. Anywhere that it goes, it does affect and has a positive effect on people being able to come to the community, move around freely, ride their bikes, skate, whatever they need to do, and I think it's a great tool, as a great feature to a city.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Heller, same question.
Yeah, I think it's fabulous, and I say that not only because I've sat on the City Parks Commission for about 3 years, and you know, we've been able to see a lot of the things that are going to happen with it, but it's an investment, and it's an investment for the better. I strongly believe in it, just based on past experience. Some of the places I've lived, Minneapolis. I work in Carrollton, and the Greenbelt for Carrollton has been phenomenal for the area, as well as just what its potential is. The concerns of phase lining and the budgets, those are always going to be issues. But the only thing that bothers me about it is that in 2009, I'll throw that one out there. There was a survey done to the city, and the number one thing the city wanted at the time was more walking and more biking and more accessibility. It took almost a decade to take action on getting that accomplished. So I think as we concern ourselves with phase lines and getting things done, I think it's important to say, you know, we've gotten to this point now, we understand how economies work, it's not going to get cheaper, let's make sure this gets done. It's what the people want.
Very good. Mr. Krause, same question.
When you talk about the link, it takes me back. I have a close friend of mine named Bob Coggin who said to me one time, he said that one of the regrets he has in his life is not fighting hard enough on that side of the interstate to put in the coffee cart pass like Peachtree City. He thought it'd be a great idea. Now what it is a little bit of a back way into it. I think it promotes health. I think it promotes health, good health for people. I know that Piedmont Hospital's talking about paying their own portion to put their own system in so they can do a walk path around for exercise. There'll be some folks in other parts of the city don't feel that way, but then again, those are the people who feel that they should put more money into Wadsworth, and the people on this side probably want links. I think the one thing that we do is we kind of push the money around a little bit side by side. Everybody gets a little piece of the action. Everybody gets a little something. That's what cities ought to be doing. But I like the link for the exercise part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Guillaume, rebuttal? Or Mr. Heller?
No.
We'll move on to the next question, and it is probably unfair because I'm going to pile two questions about transportation, road issues, and that sort of thing into this one thing. So I'm going to give just a little more time for this one, say up to 2 minutes if they would care to. So, and you'll see why in a second, because in July, Coweta County's Joint Transportation Coordinating Committee, and that's was made up of representatives from local governments, unanimously voted to pursue a Transportation Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, or T-SPLOST, for Coweta County and its cities. If approved, it'd be a 5-year, 1% sales tax to fund roads and transportation improvements. Next step would be a more formal convening of local governments to discuss moving forward at that point with the T-SPLOST issue. So a two-part question. What road and transportation issues do you see as most important for the city of Newnan, and do you approve or disapprove of T-SPLOST at this point? Mr. Heller, I believe the first question is yours on this one. Go right ahead.
I think when you look at that, so one, I think the right thing is being done with that, where they've approved a T-SPLOST for it, and I think the important part is to go back to the governing bodies and organizations to really sit there and look at the process and look at where should this be utilized. I don't think it would be appropriate to be done without an adequate transportation study to look at density. I think your logical point on it, you know, what we would do overseas if we were looking at this type of thing is you'd look at your primary thoroughfares first and the effects of that, and then you're going to look at secondary as well as future expansion areas, because if you have a good future plan or a good master plan for your city, county, state, whatever it is, and you have projections of where things are going to go, you can put a little forethought and a little foresight into where you build. There are things in the city where if I think many years ago had some forethought been put into it a little bit more, we may or may not have had some of these problems to begin with. And it's nobody's fault. It's just adding that to your process. I think T-Splosh is fine. If we go back and the people want it, and that's the majority of what it is, then fine. It's your dollars, it's your money. If you want to keep it, we're going to keep it. If you want to use it for that purpose, that's what we're here to find out. I'm here to find out if that's what you want to do and act on it.
Let me just ask follow-up on that. What are you seeing as probably the biggest transportation or infrastructure issues faced by the city right now also?
I would just say congested areas through major thoroughfares. I mean, I think that's the obvious answer, in my opinion on it. We have a very large commuting population that's coming in and out of the city, and those main thoroughfare congestion points are kind of what I see as the point right now.
Very good. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Mr. Krause, same question.
As far as support the T-Splosh, I'd have to see what the program is. But if I'm the councilman, I'm going to tell you what's going to be in it. It's going to be Lower Fayetteville Road. It's a backup. It's a problem. My vision for Lower Fayetteville Road is to move cars from point A to point B. I don't have a whole lot of interest in creating any commercial activity on the road. It's the best way to do that is to put curb and gutter on both sides, put a median down the middle of it, and then landscape it like a residential district and put your light poles all the way down the center of it. If I had my druthers, honestly, I would move the traffic light at Mary Freeman down to the intersection with East Lake and Heritage, because the school buses are crossing through there. And that's a dangerous situation. I put the traffic circle back up there because it's a three-part point. Traffic circles running down through there is good with me. Matter of fact, I put the artwork in the center of the traffic circle. I think it'd be fun. I think we'd have to put all kinds. We'd put the chicken in one, put the mule in the other one, put the horse in the other one, give directions by it, go down to the hawk and make a left. But I think it'd be a lot of fun. But anyway, that road's got to get fixed, and there's just no question about it. And it's a bunch of money, a ton of it, and it needs to be fixed. And we don't. And the second part is we're going to need to keep our neighborhoods correct. The intersection points are already in there, and so you just keep adding more to it. You already got them in there. Once you put that in there, then the second thing is that a couple of side streets are on the parts of being 4-laned again. I think you got a transportation part on that side that moves people around, and you know where your commercial spots are, and they'll stay in that spot. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Mr. Guillaume, same question.
As far as weighing in on the splosh, I would have to hold my view on that until I was able to get some more information and do my due diligence and talk with others that are on the council as well and see how that will affect. One of the things I do want to stay true to is making sure that our taxes do stay low and things don't get taxed for the sake of just spending for the sake of spending. When it comes to the infrastructure, what I've noticed is we just don't want to become a city, because of our location in proximity to I-85 and my experience with people coming in from other states, the reverse commute that we have, as well as the attractiveness of downtown. All these things are starting to make some congestion. I live off of Lower Fayetteville Road, so I appreciate what Mr. Krause had said. So we're going to have to make sure that the infrastructure is laid out properly, because the worst thing we can do, if it's not done properly, we're going to actually deter growth in the long term. Because most people are, and businesses included, they're going to take a hard look at the ins and outs. And I've seen it in Clayton County. I've seen it in other counties where, you know, you just build something for the sake of building. You don't have the road support. Coming from Orlando, Florida, for example, they had the monopoly, I think, on 4 lanes dumping into 1. So those are the things we don't want to do. We want to make sure traffic moves from point A to point B, and that people can get around. I will tell you, in talking with a number of people, that is a main concern, the infrastructure as well as traffic. Poplar Road is going to be another one, even though that exchange is going to give us an opportunity to bring in more in the trauma center to the proposed at the hospital. There's just going to be an infusion of cars. And so it all goes back to what we're talking about even earlier with the density issue. When it brings in more traffic, and I understand the traffic studies, but it's been my experience, they're really conservative in many respects until you actually live there and have to move about on those roads. So,
all right. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Did you have a rebuttal, Mr. Heller or Mr. Krauth? Then we'll move on to our next question. I believe, Mr. Krauth, you started on this one. Talk a little bit about public safety. What are your thoughts overall on the City of Noonan's law enforcement and public safety services and the state of those at this point?
Well, I think it's a good question. Currently, about 53% of the city's budget is placed on public safety. Approximately 100 police officers, 55 firefighters, and they're opening another fire station, so it now goes up to 60, 61. Public safety is part of the branding for our city. Without good public safety, you're not going to get anywhere. Without good folks doing their job, I got to tell you, I've had one experience and it's just traumatic, and this is why I'm very appreciative. About a year and a half ago, when my wife's mother and father both passed away within 2 weeks of each other, she got violently ill. And it's the first time in my life I had to dial 911 as an emergency in my house. And I want to tell you, between rescue, fire department, sheriff's departments, those people were there so quick, so fast. Examined my wife, got her to Piedmont Hospital in an ambulance. You know, that's the point when you realize how important it is in your life that you have to have that public safety aspect. And I don't ever wish that on anybody in this world. That's the scariest moment in life when you have to do it, especially when it's your spouse. And I'm proud of them, and I want to continue to hope they continue to do better, and they can be better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Guillaume.
well, as far as first responders, I think in my experience and what we witnessed not too long ago, the response to our community and the police department and other collaboration with other units throughout the state, what we deferred and really diffused was phenomenal. My position on first responders and police department, as being a military police, I have a healthy respect for and understand the importance of training and the equipment necessary for those to perform the duties at the highest of levels. So I support the training, the finances needed to get them what they need to make sure that we have a safe and secure community. As to your situation, it's important that they're able to get to the people as quickly as possible. And when I talk to people out there in our district, for example, they do. One of the things they respond to is the low crime and the importance of that and the quality that it brings and the sense of security that it brings to them, and they can feel free that they can walk about their community without being in harm's way. So I 100% support and strongly support, as well as we'll work hard to make sure they have the training and the best equipment possible.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Heller.
All right. Hopefully it's not too obvious an answer for me, having come from a public safety background early in my career. As being a military police officer, of course, I'm a strong supporter of it. It's a core infrastructure for a city, for a municipality of many levels. And I think when you start looking at like where do you fund things, if you don't fund your core infrastructures to the capacity and need, then you're doing a disservice. You know, so the current state of where we're at, we'll never have enough, and every police officer, firefighter, EMT will tell you there will never be enough because they're stretched thin. Like teachers, we're overworked and underpaid. I think we maintain such a good quality because of where we do live, and we kind of take that, I think we take that hit on maybe we don't make as much or maybe we don't have as many resources as we'd like. But I think knowing that and understanding that, I think the fear of retention as well as our natural growth that's going to occur and things like that, I think it's one of my number one issues in addressing is just making sure that those core infrastructures and public safety in particular is a fully supported entity.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Did you have a rebuttal to anything, Mr. Krauth?
No.
or Mr. Gill. Very good. I tell you what, in the interest of time, we have to move on to our closing statements. I hate that because I think y'all have all had a very good exchange of ideas. I know there are probably lots of things we haven't even talked about that y'all might want to, from the budget to entertainment districts or what have you. But if we haven't brought anything up that you would particularly like to talk about, I would certainly like to ask you to treat that somewhat in your closing statements. We will start those. Those are going to be 2-minute closing statements, and we'll reverse our order from where we started. Mr. Heller, we'll start with you.
Oh, all right. All right. Again, thank you for everybody coming out. Thank you for the chamber. Thank you for the students that are here. And thank you to my colleagues that are up here. This is the first time I've got a chance to speak and meet with you guys, and I think it's been fabulous. This isn't a race against each other. This is a race for a position because we want to see things done better, and I think it's fabulous. As far as I go, I'm strong on schools. I'm strong on infrastructure. I want to see my kids grow up in a place that they want to be proud to call home, and that when I'm going to move into whatever senior living facility is probably being built across the street from me, they'll take care of me for years to come down here. If you haven't heard of me or anything like that, check me out at hellerfornoonan.com. To find out more about me, and you can always contact me. I want to be the voice for you, and I am honestly always here to listen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Guillaume.
Again, I want to thank the Chamber for making this event possible. During my life and my career, I've lived in South Florida and Central Florida and Georgia. Having large territories, sales territories in these areas, as well as a real estate agent working with investment property in South Fulton, Clayton, Henry County, and Coweta counties, it's really given me a very unique perspective on how cities grow and expand. For example, their traffic, their density, infrastructure, ordinances, and zoning in particular. So over the last 50 days, I've been face to face with a number of people and a few business owners downtown. And I've always asked this question: as your voice on the City Council, what is of value to you and what do you like about Newnan? So words that are common are quaint, charming, character, the beauty of downtown, the square, the quality of life are just a few. Low crime, love that. People love that as well, the freedom to be able to go about. So how do we maintain the fabric of our community as well, and enforce responsible growth? So in Jobs and Growth, I work with our local leaders to continue to create an environment that will attract quality businesses and promote responsible growth while maintaining the quality of life we all deserve. It's why we live here. It's why we moved here. On taxes and spending, I will vote to keep the property taxes low and our spending priorities frugal and transparent. On community, to preserve the quality of life that makes Newnan a wonderful place to live, raise a family, and enjoy one's golden years. I believe my life and career experiences will assist me in making informed, solution-driven decisions. As the only retired candidate, I have the time and fully to devote to the demands and the responsibilities of the City Council. And I can meet anyone, anywhere, at any given time. In closing, my father demonstrated to me the privilege and the honor of volunteering and the joy of service to community. He instilled that in me as a young man. He was a volunteer fireman who answered the call no matter what time, day or night, with no fanfare. He just did what he needed to do. So I hope only to follow his example. So I'd be honored, and it'd be a privilege and a joy to serve as your voice for District 1 Post A. So I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kraft.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank everyone who helped tonight, especially my timekeeper later back there. She's got these sign things going on. Kids, you did a great job. Greg and Paul, good luck. Safe passage to home. I know when this is all over, about 6 months from now, Greg, if you play golf, we're all going to be sitting around having a beer, laughing it up, yucking it up about some of these door-to-doors and who you meet. so work on that. I hope you've heard my message tonight, which is, again, if I'm elected, I promise we're going to get a homestead exemption for the homeowners. And the reason is simple: you've earned it. You've been toting the water around here for years and years and years and years and years. They're coming back to you again, asking you to vote for a T-SPLOS program, and we're going to get you an exemption. It's not going to be a lot, but it's going to be something because you earned it. And I am going to do something about the speeders in your neighborhood. I'm going to start right there on West Hill Drive. And I'm gonna tell you, once again, just this past week, another neighbor had their mailbox just knocked right off because someone swerved. They drive way too fast over there. Those homeowners deserve. They put their life over there. They bought a house. They deserve to live on a street where people are not traveling 40 miles an hour in a neighborhood. And we're gonna fix something about that. So, all in all, that's my plan. Put out my objectives. That's what I'm gonna do if I get elected. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, thank you very much again for running. Thank you very much for being here tonight. I thought you all did exceptionally well, and I appreciate your participation in this. Good luck coming up on November 6th, each one of you. So,
Thank you.
our next forums tonight feature the city of Grantville. There are 3 elections going on in the city of Grantville this year. Candidates from 2 of those races have joined us tonight. And our first is going to feature the mayor of the city of Grantville. That race features incumbent Mayor Doug Jewell facing challengers Marion Sarge Cieslik and Eddie Marquard. Mayor Jewell and Mr. Marquard could not join us tonight. We are joined by Mr. Cieslik. Mr. Cieslik, good evening. Glad you could be here tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me here.
I'm going to go through our forum just as though everyone were here. Let me just extend to you first an opportunity to have an opening statement, then I'll ask a few questions in between and a closing statement afterwards. And if you'd like, you could go ahead and start with your opening statement.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Grantville has never recovered from its loss of industry. There was a time where cotton was king in Grantville. As the mills died, so did the spirit of Grantville. In turn, our city died. Over 40 years and counting, we still have not recovered our industrial economic base. So people ask me, how do you know? You only been here 20 years. Well, citizens, I come from a city this has happened to, Buffalo, New York, known as the Rust Bowl. When you lose your economic life, bad things happen. You lose your tax base, schools, your stores, restaurants, and most importantly, you have a brain drain of local citizens. People are forced to move where they can earn a living. They leave home. That's what happened in Grantville. We do not have a doctor, a dentist, a daycare, or a grocery store, or modern restaurants. At what time we had these services? This must change. We must get these services back. If the citizens elect me as mayor, the following will happen the first week in January. I will appoint a mayor's industrial economic committee to focus on a comprehensive plan to bring economic development to Grantville. This is something we have never had. I will revitalize and fund the Downtown Development Authority with a mission focus on redesigning the downtown area for the year 2020 and beyond, with emphasis on a parking problem and installing a Wi-Fi system to attract the users to the downtown area. The future of Grantville is undoubtedly Highway 29. We sit right on a major exit off the interstate. Why have we not developed this opportunity? We have lots of vacant land. I will veto any anti-business legislation. We recently passed a restrictive ordinance concerning the establishment of a car wash business. Why, citizens? We don't even have a car wash. If you're investing your money in Grantville, you're going to have a friend in the mayor's office. We will have all the resources we need to make Grantville better. However, we must spend our money wisely. We're losing 12 million gallons of water. Repairing and upgrading our utility system should have been a top concern. The internet. The city does not have a handle on this problem. We are entertaining various companies to come and give us a dog and pony show as to what they can do for $2.3 million. In the meantime, AT&T is running high-speed fiber cable to a subdivision just outside of Grantville. AT&T ran cable for the CSX Railroad through Grantville. Newlink, wow, is installing high-speed internet cable down Lone Oak to Griffin Street. I asked the city administration about this, They did not have a clue. This will change the first week in January. We will know what's happening in the city of Granville. Lastly, I will be a full-time mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Wanted to ask you a couple of questions about some of the things you talked about, but let me first ask a little bit about you.
Yes.
If you could, tell us a little bit about yourself. Talk about your life's work experience, perhaps your business, professional experience, and how that would likely guide your decision making as mayor.
I defended my country for 7 years. After that, I went back home and I went to Canisius College. I wasn't able to graduate due to personal reasons, but God has blessed me with a job with Mobil Oil Corporation. And that's where I started my love for refinery operations, steam generation, which is what a stationary engineer does. Unfortunately, they closed, like 70% of the industries. So then I came down here to Dixie, and I worked for Georgia Tech. At that time, I studied for my master's license in conditioned air, and for almost 37 years, I was a mechanical contractor here in Georgia. Through it all, I've learned the value of a dollar. When you're a sole proprietor, there's nobody to go and get a check. You have got to make that happen. And that's the same emphasis I'm going to bring to City Hall. You're going to work for your paycheck. And you're going to be competent. You're going to keep up with the new technologies. And you have to perform.
All right. Thank you, sir. I
You're
appreciate that. You talked a little bit, we actually talked a good bit in your opening statement about economic development. Kind of flesh out your vision of, for the city of Grantville in terms of that economic development. What do you think are the most important things you could do to bring it about? What are the things you most want to achieve?
We have to get a coalition. We're too small to do anything. Coweta County's got 2 mega industrial sites. Meriwether County has got an industrial park, plenty of empty space. Somehow we have got to partner with our big brother, Coweta County, and just see what's available to us, what we can do. We don't have an economic development committee. We don't have anybody that knows the ins and outs of that kind of a project. You can't just pick up the phone and say, Ford Motor Company, will you come here to Granville? How do we do this? And Coweta County's got the answer. They have an industrial development section. They have IT people.
Okay.
We need to partner with Coweta County.
Also, what about public participation? Would that be a big part of this in terms of, you mentioned the authorities and so forth, would city boards and authorities and other volunteer efforts, would that end up being a big part of that?
Yes, and it would be real nice if we can get them fully staffed. We still have a vacancy on our planning and zoning. We have a vacancy on our historical preservation committee. And after the first time, oftentimes they leave. Just like the city council and mayor, very seldom do we have anybody that stays more than 4 years. Hopefully I'll be an exception. But voter apathy, citizen apathy, you know, it's hard to get over that. But you gotta get people to love your city. You can't have little Gigi's, little Granville groups. One group hating another. You can't have that. The psychology has got to change if you want a good, unified effort to make the city better.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I appreciate you coming tonight. We're going to let you finish with a closing statement before we move on to our next races.
This one won't be as long.
All right, sir.
Granville will once again become a shining gem in the crown of Coweta County. We will do this by attracting top quality professionals to help us with our resurgence. I will ask the Chamber for help, along with the Georgia Municipal Association and our big brother, Coweta County. We are going to need your help. Municipalities throughout the country are being forced to do more with less. We need to develop our employees for the new challenges that we now face. We cannot escape this fact, nor tax our way out of trouble. We must work harder, smarter, and embrace the new technologies that can make our work easier. One of my favorite quotes from the Bible was in Matthew. Ye shall know them by their fruits. With the help of a wise city council and concerned citizens, the tree of Granville will again bear fruit. A new day together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sergeant Cieslik, good luck on November 6th, and thank you again for coming tonight. We appreciate you doing this and appreciate you running for this post.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Exit, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we're back. We have 2 city council seats facing elections in the city of Grantville this year. Council Post 1 and Post 2. We have candidates from one of those races who have joined us tonight here at the Central Educational Center. That is Grantville City Council member Post 1 with incumbent Willie Key facing challengers Jim Sells, Dee Berry, and Sandra Luttrell. Ms. Luttrell and Mr. Key could not join us tonight. We do have candidates Jim Sells and Dee Berry with us tonight. Mr. Sells, Mrs. Berry, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
We'll start with our forum, if you would, and I'm going to turn to you first, Ms. Berry, for a 2-minute opening statement.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Noonan-Coweta Chamber of Commerce and the Central Education Center for sponsoring this forum and for inviting me to participate. Foremost, I'm not a politician. I've never held an elective office. I'm a parent, a grandparent, and a spouse. My spouse and I moved to Coweta County in 2006, and we settled in a small town with an area of 5.6 miles and a current population of 3,046. Family friendly. Granville is family friendly. We got busy in the community and associated with the Kiwanis to help found it, and I became a charter member. And I affiliated myself with the local chapter of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, which is my sorority. I became a member of the Granville Historic Preservation Commission, and the City Council appointed me to serve as the Granville representative to the Board of Trustees of the Community Action for Improvement. My education is I have a bachelor's degree with minor in business. I'm married to a retired veteran, James, and he's here with me today, and he's also my campaign manager. He's a disabled veteran and a recipient of the Purple Heart Award. I'm very proud of my husband. We became foster parents in the community, and that was very rewarding for us. And with our nonprofit organization, we sponsored the Granville Chilean Blues Festival for two years straight to bring the community together and everybody can enjoy the blues. 5 reasons that I'm in this race. 1, there's more women needed in government. That's a good thing to have more women. We tend to be actually promote harmony, productivity, and we like to build a consensus. We love fairness in the process. We don't have to win all the time, but we like for there to be fairness in the process. As a current business, I feel it's important for the city to work with current businesses that have expended funds to establish the business in our community, to work with them and to encourage other businesses to come in. And work with nonprofit organizations, because that's free labor. If we work with them, they help to promote the city. We form partnerships. And the youth, I was looking at our budget, and there's 0 in there for youth. But youth comprise 27% of the community. But I'm looking in the budget, and they've got something in there for seniors. They've got a senior center. The seniors comprise 11% of our population. So I feel that we need to kind of tweak that budget and put something in there for the youth. As a former city clerk, I really promote open government and records and open records to make our government transparent. And also to make sure the citizens are informed and encourage them to participate. To have public hearings, make sure that they're posted, and to make sure that our elections and voter registration is ongoing all year round. And then to have liaison with the youth. You know, have a youth commission. We've got commissions in Grantville. We don't have a youth commission. And that was one of the things that I did when I was the city clerk. I formed a youth commission and I was a liaison to them.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Mr. Sells, we'll ask you for your opening statement as well.
Thank you. I'd also like to thank the Chamber of Commerce. I am a member. I'd like to thank the Central Education Center for facilitating this. It is important any way we can to get the message out to those that are going to choose their elected officials. I'm from Dothan, Alabama. I grew up a civil service brat, got to move all over the country and outside the United States and lived in Asia several years. I came to the area in 1985, built a house in Turin. I was a Coweta County foster parent for many years. I came to Grantville in 2001. I fell in love with it. At the time, I was an international Delta pilot flying all over the world. I had apartments in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I just had an epiphany, and wow. And I've been in Grantville, focused on Grantville ever since. I left Delta 10 years early and moved my sister into Grantville, my mother, my oldest son, and I've been focused in Grantville since 2001. I created a business. I built it from nothing, and I'm the largest employer in Grantville. We've created several jobs, and except for the city has more employees than I do. Like to tell you my qualifications, again, I created a business. I am a businessman. I was mayor in the past, so I'm a politician, and I'm a lousy politician. I'm a doer. We've got to get things done. We've got to focus and make things better. We have to have results from our time invested. I was on a board of directors at Habitat for Humanity, Noonan Coweta, 7 years, and during that time we grew from a 1-acre finished facility to a 20-acre finished facility, and we expanded the number of houses that we provided for families, needy families, 5 times. So I'm very happy with the results that we were able to accomplish at Habitat for Humanity. I was 4 years as mayor, and we'll talk later about what we accomplished there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you both very much. Let me ask you a follow-up question to your opening statement, and we'll stagger this back and forth. So, Mr. Sells, I'm going to ask you this first this time. But the follow-up is, both of you referenced some of your life and work experience. Kind of build on that a little bit. Take just a minute and tell us how your life's work experience, your professional, or even your civic experience, whatever has been most formative to you, how would that likely guide your decision-making as a member of the Grantville City Council? Mr. Sells.
Well, again, I am a businessman. I've had several businesses, and I've been very successful in Grantville. When all the other real estate investors were turning in keys and handing houses back to the bank, I survived and I grew. And while as mayor, we got the city finances in order, and I left a very properly working house when I left. The city's a business, and my business experience puts me in a very good position to see that Grantville moves forward in a positive, successful light.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Berry, same question.
Well, my experience, I'm semi-retired educator, and I have experience with programs with the U.S. Department of Commerce the Veterans Administration, and the Food and Drug Administration. And I have 20+ years as an administrator, business office administration. I was a former city clerk for 12 years, and I currently work part-time with the Coweta County school system as a substitute teacher in the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. My favorite is the elementary school because these are young people who are eager to learn, and when they learn a new concept, you can really see the smiles on their face.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Ms. Berry, I'm going to turn to you first on this question. Talk a little bit about your vision for the city of Grantville, particularly in terms, just generally speaking, of its economic development. When you think of things that need to happen to promote the prosperity of the city of Grantville, what things are most important to you to accomplish, and how would you accomplish them, again, in terms of economic development?
Well, I think the most important thing is for the city to have professional trained staff. The council members come and go, but the staff is usually there, and they serve various administrations. So I feel it's the responsibility of the city council to hire an executive manager who will hire good staff, and that the staff will be trained, cross-trained, and they will always have the best interests of the city at heart, whether or not they live in the city or outside the city. I feel that's very important. And listening to, getting citizen input. The citizens, they're very perceptive. They come to council meetings. If they come to a council meeting and they don't feel a welcome atmosphere there, if they have to sit and wait till the end of the meeting to make a comment about things, instead of having a comment at the time the decisions are being made, they feel like, well, what's the use? So I feel it's important to have citizen input in front of the decision.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Sells, same question in terms of economic development.
Yes, the number one thing we have to do, is get our finances back in order. When I left 4 years ago, we were living on the income that we had. Now since then, they are still just doing day-to-day business with nothing added. They're taking 7.5% of the utility fund that we're paying for utilities and using that for day-to-day business. They've also tripled property taxes. They're using that money for day-to-day business. And then at the end of the year, they had to pull $185,000 out of our enterprise fund just to pay off the bills at the end of the year. This is not managed properly, and it's not even being addressed. The amount of money the city is spending for day-to-day business, it has to be brought under control. That's number one. The next thing we have to do is change the city government to a business-friendly attitude. It's anti-business now. Business pays your bills. Restaurants, spas, everything you can get in town, they pay the bills. Citizens demand services. We need to be business-friendly so we attract businesses. Those are the main goals.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Berry, would you care for a rebuttal on that?
No, I don't have a rebuttal.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Sells, I believe we're going to start with you on this question. I've heard you both mention this a couple times, but let me just ask you to expand on it. Talk to me a little bit about public participation. How important is public participation for the future of the city of Grantville, including participation on city boards, authorities, and so forth? And would you like to increase public participation? And if so, how would you do it? Mr. Sells, I'll turn to you first.
Well, we have to be receptive to public participation. We do have to respond to the requests of the citizens. We've got a tremendous problem right now with the people across the interstate. They don't have broadband, and you just can't get the citizens you need without broadband. That's a number one issue for the citizens of Grantville right now. And public participation is to be there. The incumbent's not here, but that is part of the problem. He's not attending. He's not involved. We have to be at the meetings. I told you I'm pounding the streets in Grantville. Every day, all day, you can find Jim Sells on the streets of Grantville. We've got to be involved, listen to the citizens. We've got to know what their needs are. And if we can, we've got to address them.
All right. Thank you, sir. Ms. Berry, public participation?
Well, for several years, I served on the Historic Preservation Commission as chairperson toward the end of my tenure there. And it was very frustrating for me to take an idea or a request to the city council and ask for support and not be given support. So if you're going to form a commission or a board, you need to put something in the budget to support their work and to work with them to make sure that whatever they're planning, whatever their programs are, that you're working hand in hand with them, and to also have staff available to help and assist them. That was very frustrating for me. I served there as long as I could under those circumstances, but then I declined to serve further. So if you're going to put a board or commission, form it, support it.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Sells, would you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal, but I want to agree with everything she said. She's exactly right.
No, thank you, sir. All right, we have come to closing statements. We'll reverse our order. Mr. Sells, you'll go first in just a moment. I know there may be several things we haven't had a chance to talk about, but if there are, please be sure to mention those in your closing statements. Mr. Sells, your closing statement first.
I want to thank you again. I just want to bring out the importance, even in a small town, the importance of leadership in that small town. You know, when I left, we were trying to solve the water leakage problem. 4 years ago, it was at 30%. We had a company hired to go through with the right kind of equipment, figure that out. That's not been done. It's now 39%. So for every $100 we pay for water, 39% leaks out into the ground before it ever gets to a paying customer. That's $5,000 a month. That money's gone every month. We need to be seriously working on stopping that expense. Grantville's citizens are paying 150% for sewer. If you've got an $80 water bill, you pay $200 for that water once you add the sewer. We've got to get the finances in order. A city just south of us, 6 miles, had the creditor force them to double water and sewer rates. In that city, a normal family of 4 pays $400 a month. That's where we're headed. That started July 1st. We have to have the city finances in order, and we don't need to be pulling utility funds out and enterprise funds out to run day-to-day business.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Berry, your closing statement.
Yes, Grantville is ideal for raising a family. It's remote from the big city, the traffic, the noise, and crime. And we have a small town serenity atmosphere, which is great. If we are approached by a business, we can let them know that we're accessible to the highway, which is I-85, and the Atlanta airport. And we have a really unique historic district. And we're also located close to the metro Atlanta area for services. So I think we have a jewel in Grantville. And that's why we're living there, and that's why it's my home. And I know the citizens, what they care about, the city council should care about. And the only way for the city council to know what the citizens care about is to have an open forum, like you have here today. Invite them in, ask them, and make them feel like whatever they contribute, you're going to listen to them. Some of the citizens are saying that, our utilities are too high. And what is the city doing about that? Some of them say, in our neighborhood, we don't have sidewalks. The street lights keep going out. What are you doing about that? We need broadband, internet. I see the city's working toward that. We need that. That's very important for us to grow. And we need a facility big enough for the whole community to come together and celebrate. So those are some of the things that, when I'm elected, that I will be working toward. And I'm just asking the citizens to give me a chance. I'll be there for them. And I won't change when I get in office. I'll still be D. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Berry, Mr. Sells, thank you all so much for being here tonight. Thank you for running for this important post in the city of Grantville, and good luck to both of you on November 6th.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll end this forum. Y'all did very well. Thank you. We'll end this forum, and then we'll come back in a few minutes with city council races and mayor race in the city of Sharpsburg. And we're back with city races in Sharpsburg. We have a couple of those tonight. First up, we have mayor for the town of Sharpsburg. We have both of our candidates with us, Polly Garlington and Blue Cole, who have joined us. Thank y'all so much for being here tonight, and of course, thank you for running for this important post. We'll start in just a moment with opening statements. Mr. Cole, I'll call on you first, but just a quick note about our rules. We'll go with 2-minute opening statements, and then a series of questions for 1 minute and 2-minute closing statements. I'll offer you, while we're having questions, a rebuttal if y'all would elect to. Other than that, we will start with our opening statement. And Mr. Cole, both of y'all, please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you think is most important to you for the town of Sharpsburg in this race.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Blue Cole, and I am a candidate for mayor in the special municipal election that will be held on November 6th. I'd like to thank the Chamber, Mr. Jackson, and the CEC for hosting this event. I have been blessed to live in Sharpsburg my whole life. My wife and I grew up about a half a mile apart. Our daughters are both third-generation East Coweta Indians, with the third to follow, and we have owned multiple businesses in the county, including one in downtown Sharpsburg. I'd like to share some of my experiences that I think can benefit the town. I work for the state writing human services contracts, managing projects, and conducting outreach. One of my proudest moments is knowing we have rehoused 100 homeless families within the city of Atlanta. That's over 250 men, women, and children who are no longer sleeping on the streets. My most complex project involved restructuring 24 human services contracts across the state in less than 6 months. But we got it done, left it better than we found it, and we have increased our efficiency and decreased our costs. As a business owner, I know what businesses are looking for: a good location with access to customers and a viable workforce. As a business support analyst, I know how government works, where the pain points are, and I've developed the knack for finding the right person in the right place to solve a problem. As a native of Sharpsburg, I have deep roots. The town is my bedrock. I want to combine all three of my skills: business, public administration, and the town, to create a place where residents, merchants, and visitors can find happiness and success. I want a town that people speak of fondly, come back, and love so much they decide to move back to be closer to us. With the residents, businesses, and leadership, we have a good start, but there's a lot of work to do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Garlington, your opening statement.
Thank you, and I'm Polly Garlington. I'm running for the same spot. I want to thank you all for having us here. This is a first, I do believe, and I hope you keep it up. It's wonderful. I've only been in Sharpsburg 20 years. That makes me a newcomer, and I'm sure a lot of the people here will recognize that. One of the first things that I wanted to mention was something I heard in one of the questions earlier tonight. Was mentioning, a question went to one of the candidates about communication. And that happened to be one of the things I was most interested in. I don't think, no matter how grandiose our plans are, and how much work and time and skill we put into it, until we have good communication with our residents and merchants, until we have them volunteering and coming forward to help us promote anything we suggest with their approval, of course, and hoping for their input, I don't think we'll ever move our town forward one teeny-weeny little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Let me ask y'all both, just to kind of follow up on your opening. This is our first question, by the way, and I'll start with you in a moment, Ms. Garlington. Both kind of follow up a little bit from your opening statements. Talk about your work and your life experience. Specifically, tell us how your life's business or professional experience, or even your past civic experience, will particularly shape your decision-making as mayor of Sharpsburg. Ms. Garlington, I'll go to you first.
How far back you want to go?
As far as you want, whatever you think is most important.
I started at 10 years old folding newspaper for the Times Herald. The Times Herald, that's a habit. Tillmansville Times. Anyway, I started teaching after my kids got old enough that I didn't have to leave them in daycare. I taught for 22 years at East Coweta and the county, not just East Coweta. I've had a small business for a while. Done websites. I've got a couple of websites I do for people. My hobby is chair caning, which used to be a nice business, but my source folded up on me, so I don't do that anymore. I've got 4 children. My great-granddaughter's with me, and she wishes she was on camera with me. She's my campaign manager, by the way. What else? I graduated from Georgia State University a long time ago, but I had a degree in leadership and supervision, which I've never put to use, so I'm ready. So I'm hoping to get the opportunity this time.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Cole, same question.
So my career for the last 10, 15 years has been about helping people. I started working with the state in child support enforcement, helping people find jobs. That connected me with employers. In that position, I was able to put my business experience to use because of the businesses my wife and I owned. And I learned how to develop relationships. I found that I have a knack and that I enjoy talking to people. And one of the things that I've been able to do is find inventive solutions to problems. So I'm really looking forward to taking that entrepreneur's work ethic along with the ability to develop relationships and help the people of Sharpsburg.
All right. Thank you, sir. Our next question is going to be about economic development in particular, but you can construe that broadly. When you think about what is most important for the development of the town of Sharpsburg, what is your vision for that? What do you think the elements of that are? And what do you think are the steps you might need to take as mayor in working with the city council to make sure that that happens? Mr. Cole, you first.
I like what Polly said about communication. The first thing we have to find out is what people want. One of the things that I did when I first started thinking about running for mayor is I said, let's find out what the people want. So I put up a survey. 63% want a full-service restaurant. Another 63% want a coffee shop. And then the third place total was the third place finisher was a bookstore at 33%. So the first thing is to ask what the people want. Second thing to do is to figure out how can the town attract it, which means we have to have infrastructure, we have to have sewer, which is something I'm going to speak on later on. We have to have a business environment, an environment that is conducive to business, which means the town needs to be easy to work with. The people need to be pleasant. And then once we can bring all that together, we're going to have to time it right, but we have to bring all 3 of those things together at the same time to get the businesses, which can attract the residents, which then attract the customers for the businesses, so it's just a cycle.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Garlington, same question. What's most important for economic development of Sharpsburg?
I think what I hear most is everybody would like a decent place to eat that's not takeout. And of course, before we can do that, we've got to have sewer some way, shape, or form. In the past years, there was some talk of joining with Noonan Water and Light to join with them to bring the sewer to our town. That caved in, excuse me, caved in for some reason or another. But until we get that, I don't think anything can happen because it's kind of required for nearly about everything. Now, there is an outside chance that because of the linkage on Highway 16 that they come pretty close to Sharpsburg anyway. And there's a good possibility that perhaps with the right connections and the right whatever it takes, and I don't even know that perhaps that could be developed so that area was planned at one time for a strip mall. Well, not a strip mall, actually. It was really nice, I don't know what to call it, a town development area.
Okay.
And it had the houses, and it also had stores and doctor's offices, and that was on the other side of Highway 16, away from our little town. Now, one of the things that we do have businesses now in the downtown area, we have 2 business places. We have the little section that's Old Town area, which has got some successful businesses, but not nearly enough, and we desperately need that to be developed. The houses, I'm not through.
Oh, I apologize. No, you go right
I'm about
ahead.
2 minutes up.
No, ma'am.
Anyway, the other one I'll mention and then I'll hush was the section on the highway, and they have flourishing businesses and have had them for like 20 years. So we need to find out what they're doing right so we can get the other part of our little town doing the same thing. We're little, so we're going to need help. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Cole, do you have a rebuttal?
Not so much a rebuttal, just an additional comment. This is where the relationship building becomes important. This is where connections within government become important. We're going to have to, just like Ms. Polly said, we're going to have to leverage our resources because our 341 people in Sharpsburg can't do it all by themselves.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Garlington, do you have an additional comment as well?
No, we agree on a lot of things.
Okay, very good. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to go with you first on this next question, Ms. Garlington. Talk a little bit about public participation. As you said, you have a smaller population, a lot of things that you want to accomplish. How important is public participation? I'm talking particularly among the citizens of Sharpsburg, and do you think that's important, and how would you, reach out to folks or improve that?
I think that's number one. I don't think until you can get that and the interest and the support that anything will ever go anywhere. And how you do it, the GMA, Georgia Municipal Association, has groups of people that will come into the town. They've been once before, but it never got off the ground exactly. And they will come and help you endlessly. They do plans, they make suggestions, they help you more than I know. And so having them back would do that. But you've got to have the people wanting to. Newsletters, we have a website, but I'm not sure everybody knows we've got it. Anything, Times and Herald can help us out with that, because you could write up some articles for us from time to time, because we do have things going on there. But anything we can do and to use other people's successes to bring it to us.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Cole, same question.
Communication and public participation is always going to be vital to a small town. Right now in our survey, 34% of people say that we should do it through Facebook, 24% through email, and 27% through the website. I like that, but that only works for part of our population. We need to make sure that we're covering everybody in print, in flyers, and in mail. But one of the things to increase public participation is going to go hand in hand with something that the town needs to do, and that is our administrative organization. Right now, the town of Sharpsburg has one budget, one pot of money, and then one plan. What we need to do is we need to develop 2 to 3 commissions that have citizen involvement headed by one of our council members that can then take on public works, development, roads, parks and recreation, things like that, and then invite the public to take part in that and to participate, give us their ideas. We're really going to need a lot of servant leadership to help us, and the mayor will need to guide this process.
All right, thank you, sir. We've come to the end.
Can I add one thing to that?
Please do, and I apologize, I should have offered you a
just
rebuttal
going along
too.
with what he said, I found that volunteers are not all that hard to get. Back a couple of years ago, there was a need for something that was not exactly a part of the town, or was planned to be, but then didn't turn out to be. I asked 5 people, and all 5 people said yes, and they were not personal friends. So I think the big thing is to get out there and ask. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Would you have an additional comment as well?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you very much for that. We're going to come to a closing statement now. Ms. Garlington, I'm going to go to you first. There are probably some things that we haven't touched on, and if so, make sure you bring those up in your closing statement. But Ms. Garlington, your closing statement first.
Well, of course I plan to win.
Absolutely.
Even though my great-granddaughter thought I was going to vote for blue, and she told me so yesterday. Anyway, I hope if and when he loses, he will still stay involved and not disappear into the woodwork like some of the past people have done.
Absolutely.
And I promise you this, I will not disappear.
I would not expect it in the least.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. I've spoken several times about the projects that I've worked on and the contracts and relationships that I've developed. I know that the administration of a town is not the same as rehousing vulnerable families, but the process to do the same is very similar. You have to identify needs. You have to bring resources and experts to the table. You have to beg, borrow, and cajole for funding. You study the results and either improve the process or use them to leverage additional resources. Working for the town will be no different. Sharpsburg potential is there, but we have a long road if we want to set ourselves up for extended success. We need to build a foundation that will support us for the next 20 to 25 years. We have the site graded, the footers dug, and the concrete truck is coming down the road. But if we don't focus on our administrative organization, planning for capital improvements, or setting developmental priorities, it's going to be a mess. We also need to foster relationships to build the town's infrastructure. I'll plant my flag on this. Getting sewer in the next 5 to 7 years will determine where we're going to go over the next 25. If we get it, we'll prosper and grow. If we don't, we'll be limited in population, funding, and opportunities. Or worse, we'll have growth that we cannot control, growth outside the town limits without planning, without control, and growth that does not fund the town. We need to cement our identity. Sharpsburg is home to the East Coweta Indians, and we need to embrace them. Principal Steve Allen is a generational leader, and the students who are walking the halls right now are our future residents. They need to be attending homecoming activities in downtown Sharpsburg, going on dates under the Friday night lights, with the exception of my daughter, and starting businesses here after graduation. We need to bring them back after college with their families to live and work. To do these things, Sharpsburg needs a mayor with a long-range vision. She needs a leader with experience in government, business, and the ability to communicate our needs. Sharpsburg needs someone who can listen, bring everyone together, and develop solutions. I've done that for my entire career, and I cannot wait to bring those skills to my hometown. I'd like to thank the Chamber, Dean, and the CEC for hosting the event. For everyone in the audience and those watching at home, please come out and vote for me on November 6th. Thank you for having me, and good night.
Thank you. Blue Cole, Polly Garlington, thank y'all so much for being here tonight. Thank you for running, of course, and good luck to both of you on November 6th.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You too. And we'll be back in just a moment with Sharpsburg Town Council Post 3 candidates. And we're back, this time with Sharpsburg Town Council Post 3 and candidates Tom Teagle and Celine Davenport. Thank you all so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
We're going to follow the same format that we used with the earlier mayor's race candidates, and we will start in just a moment with Ms. Davenport for an opening statement. But again, 2-minute opening statements and a few questions in about 1 minute, and I'll offer you a rebuttal if you wish after some of those questions, and then we'll close with a 2-minute opening statement. So Ms. Davenport, you first, if you would, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are seeking this post.
Well, first of all, I have lived in the town of Sharpsburg for 24 years, long time, been very active in the community since I moved there, starting back with Mayor Alvin Arrowwood. And so I've always tried to stay active with one of the master plan developments that we did, and them asking me to be on a committee for that, until one time the last mayor had actually asked me if I would run for city council. So at that time I had to tell him I was ineligible to run for city council because I was not a citizen of the United States. So anyway, I went ahead and got my citizenship after a long time. And then I did go ahead and run for city council after that. I was successful in 2 races and served on city council, one time being actually mayor pro tem. And you know, I'll give you a little bit of background about myself as far as college. My degree is in political science, so it's always kind of been a little passion of mine, politics. And it's, I guess, something that I've always, you know, instilled at home with my children, and to be involved and get active with your town and your community. So that's a little bit of my political background, where it came from, my interests. Like I said, I've been there since 1994, and I've seen the town go from a very active small town, where our downtown area was actually thriving. The population growth really hasn't changed much in all those years. It's relatively small and has remained that way. But I would say at least over the last decade or more, we have seen a decline in the merchant participation in our downtown area. So that is something that I look forward to working with current landlord in the downtown area to try to revitalize that and get some more interest in that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Teagle, your opening statement.
Yeah, my name is Tom Teagle. I'm running for the Sharpsburg Town Council, Seat 3. I want to thank the Chamber for the opportunity tonight, and Mr. Jackson for setting this up. You got some great kids working for you. Sharpsburg is at a crossroads. The area around the town is growing dramatically. It's growing fast, and we're going to have to react to it. I want to use my executive experience to help look at the projects and sort out the good from the bad. We have a downtown area that has a potential for a lot of quality redevelopment, but it's literally rotting away. We need to come to some conclusions with the Bridges family and move forward with or without them on the redevelopment of downtown. We need to address the need for sewage services in the town. This will affect our ability to grow and to develop. Without it, we're stuck, and which is where we are right now. I feel like with my experience, I'm the man that Sharpsburg needs to help drive this, to help the city council drive it, and to do what's good for the town, get us off the dime. I was born and raised in East Atlanta. I went to DeKalb County High schools. After graduating from Avondale High School, I went to Reinhardt College up in Waleska. Went to the University of Georgia, where I got my degree in Bachelor of Science in Agriculture in 1975. After graduation, I went to work in the food industry. My career took me all over North America. I've had a variety of positions and ever-increasing management and executive responsibilities with companies like Dixie Crystal Sugar, H.J. Heinz, Allied Signal, North American Salt Company, and several others. So I've had a lot of executive experience. My last corporate job was with Proveedor de Alimentos, which was a joint venture in Mexico between Dixie Crystal Sugar and two Mexican sugar producers. When I left there in 1975, I was the director general of that business. When I came back to the United States, I settled in Tyrone, ran a commodity trading business with a focus on southern lumber pine lumber. I operated that until we shut it down with the downturn of the housing market in 2008. So I'm now semi-retired, working as a contract worker for Delta Airlines in the tech ops up at Hartsfield. I've always taken a part in local charity and volunteerism. In Savannah, I was active in projects sponsored by my Blue Lodge and participated in Leadership Savannah project. Later, my wife and I were active in the Optimist Club in Peachtree City. When I came back from Mexico in '95, I began giving history lectures in the public and private schools. Civic groups, speeches to groups such as the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Most recently, I've given a presentation on Paleo Indians as a kickoff speaker at the Sharpsburg Library guest speaker program. I'm currently overseeing the revitalization of the Sharpsburg Library under the Friends of Sharpsburg, a group we co-founded in May of 2018. We will reopen the library in October. I'm married to Mary Quinn Rossetti. Mary Quinn moved to Peachtree City with her family from Texas in the mid-'70s. The population then was 1,300 people. So she's been around about as long as I have. She operates a very successful interior design business here on the south side and has worked at that for about 35 years. Behind every successful man is a good woman, and she is the good woman. That is it.
Thank you, sir. Both of you referenced your life and work experience. Let me ask you to sort of expand on that a little bit. When you think of your professional experience or your business experience particularly, but also your civic experience in general, how are those experiences going to bear on your decision making as a city council member? Mr. Teagle, I'll go with you first for a 1-minute answer.
All right. I have started businesses. I have taken businesses that were run down and fixed them. I've been the go-to guy in a lot of corporations to do those types of things. I've started business from the ground up. So I know what it takes to grab hold of a problem, size it up, and set into play solutions for fixing it. And that's exactly what Sharpsburg needs.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Davenport, same question.
Would you mind repeating the question?
Yes, ma'am. When you think about your work experience, particularly your business professional experience, but also your past civic experience, how would that experience likely guide your decision making as a member of the city council?
Well, most of my professional experience has actually been in banking and finance. I've done that pretty much since I graduated high school, and moved up through the ranks pretty quickly in a few of the large banks that I worked for, and had the opportunity to lead and manage teams at a pretty young age, which I was very thankful for. But I was one of those kind of people that I'm always wanting to learn more and more and more in the next thing. So I guess, through management seeing that, they promoted me on up. I've led a team of 9, has been my largest branch that I've led as far as my banking experience, which I think a lot of my finance experience, including, you know, helping people with their retirements and investments. I've held my licenses for that, Series 6, 63, and life insurance license, to be able to help people and advise them and give them, you know, retirement type of planning for their future. I think a lot of that is extremely important when you're talking about, when you're running a city, it's a business. The city is a business. And anybody that thinks it's not, they're wrong. You know, we have budgets to follow, we have goals to meet, and I think that with my actual background in finance, including the amount of sales leadership that I've actually been trained over the years, is key to helping me be successful in, you know, being chosen as a city council member for the town.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Teagle, do you have a rebuttal?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, just wanted to offer. We're going to start with you first, Ms. Davenport, on this question. Talk a little bit about your vision for Sharpsburg's development, particularly its economic development. You both have sort of referenced this to a certain extent. When you think about the things that need to happen in Sharpsburg for its growth and development, for its continued prosperity, what are the most important things, and how would you achieve them as a city council member?
Well, I'm actually very excited with some of the things that have taken place and changed in the town this year. We have had a lot of change in leadership, and it's actually been very positive leadership. I'm glad to see a lot of these things being done. Things actually are taking place now. Although I haven't been on city council, I still attend the meetings, you know, monthly, so that I can stay involved. I do encourage, or I have in the past encouraged, work sessions to be part of council meetings prior to, because that's the only time that the actual residents will actually get to speak at a council meeting and give their input. To me, that's very important to have that. So working with, like I said, the town of Sharpsburg over probably the past decade has kind of just gone into this like little ghost town, and like Tom was saying, it's kind of rotted away in a lot of ways. And when I first moved there, it wasn't that way. So I've seen it gone from really thriving to nothing now. And one of my biggest goals is, I feel like I have a very good working relationship with the landowner of all the shops down there. I also did his father before he passed away. And I would really, really like to be able to connect with him and work something out to try to get those shops, you know, up to where they need to be so that they can be rented and we can have life there again. You know, I agree with, I think, what Blue had said earlier. You know, the homecoming for East Coweta, it should be in the town of Sharpsburg. It shouldn't be in Sonoya. And that's just my opinion. But, or at least we should be able to partner together, you know, and have some of it in Sharpsburg and to go down through Turin and Sonoya also. And I think partnering with your neighbor towns, Turin is extremely important, connecting with their council. I also would like to be able to utilize the rec center and try to start up, also partner with Turin to have a seniors event, like once a month. I think, you know, Sonoya does a really good job of that. And I'm always one that's, you know, likes to reach out to other people, ask advice and get help, and see how we can maybe bring that to us, to our town.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Teagle, same question to you, economic development.
Well, there are two things that we need to do. Primarily, we need to get the people in town involved in what's going on. It's sad at times to look at who is actually participating. Polly mentioned to me a year ago, you know, good luck getting somebody to come help you. Well, it's just difficult to get people away from their day in, day out lives to get active in the town, and we need that. We need people to come in there, people to go to the council meetings, participate, take a role in different projects. We put together this Friends of Sharpsburg, and it's people from the town of Sharpsburg. It's also business leaders, and it's local folks from the church across the street. You need them all. You need them all. But you got to have those people from the town. You have to, and that's very important. From the standpoint of infrastructure, you got to get that. You got to get that problem with the sewer system, the sewer access solved. Otherwise, you're dead in the water. You've got to have that fixed. You can't have the buildings downtown, the shops downtown. You can't have them with people, businesses in them with no bathrooms, nowhere to wash your hands. It's just not going to happen. I don't even think it's legal. So that's a key thing.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Davenport, do you have a rebuttal or
No,
additional comment?
I absolutely agree with Tom on that, and I've been saying that for a long time. I mean, sewage is vital, and it's not just Sharpsburg, it's the county. I was really excited when I saw them come down beside East Coweta High School a couple years ago, and then they just stopped, and I was like, please just keep coming a little bit more, you know, and it was one thing that I did bring up to the current mayor at that time. But I do feel like now that the fact that we have the opportunity to have a new mayor in office, we've got all new council, and I'm hoping that we can continue to build on that relationship with the county, because I think in the past it hasn't really been great. And you know, so with a whole new fresh council and mayor, I look forward to that and building those relationships with the county, because I think that they would be willing to help.
Thank you, ma'am. Any additional comments from you, Mr.
Well, just,
Taylor?
you know, the relationship with the county is key. We're small. We need, I think Blue alluded to the fact that we needed a lot of help from different quarters. You know, support from the county is going to be a very important thing with that sewer line particularly, but just in general, we need all the help we can get. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, our next. Let me move on to our next question too, which kind of builds on this. I'm going to go to you first, Mr. Teagle. You had mentioned how important it is to get citizens involved in a variety of capacities, including city boards and authorities and special projects. What's the best way to do that? It's important. What's the best way to go about building some of that civic participation?
Well, you've got to let them know what the problems are. You got to let them know what the issues are. You've got to get to them and find out from them what they think, but also go to them and say, hey, we have this problem, we have this issue, we have this program we need some help with. Otherwise, you know, they're busy with Little League, they're busy with the wife working, the husband working. People have to be, you know, grabbed and have the attention, you know, given to them, for lack of a better way of putting it. And once you do it, you can't let them feel threatened by the process. You know, you got to be open about it and in a friendly kind of a way, and you can do that. We've done that with the Friends of Sharpsburg. It's not threatening at all. You know, hey, we're going to go to the library. I even spell it wrong, but just, you know, cut up with them, have fun with it, and make it something fun to do and not something that's kind of intimidating.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Davenport, same question.
I mean, I agree with everything that Tom said. I think it's vital for us to have programs. Programs bring people in life. One of the biggest things about bringing the park in, I said, you know, when you start building things like that, then you're going to bring families, you're going to bring kids, and where you have kids, you have life. So I know when we were, you know, talking about building the park, I really wanted a larger play area for the children because they're the ones we need there. So in addition to that, we have gotten our park, although it's a small little area for kids right now. We're going to build on that. But I also think it's vital, too, to have other activities for the community, for the residents, whether it be a senior program. You know, they have all kinds of, like, dance classes now during, you know, at the rec monthly. You know, one of the things I talked to a couple of the council members about was when we were interviewing our city clerk, find out their vision. What is their vision for where they work? And, you know, are they willing to help get the news out to the residents? You know, we're going to have movies in the park on Saturday night, or we're going to have, you know, a water, you know, feature for the children or whatever. So it takes, like he said, it takes a lot of people to make that happen. I think right now, with who we have on council and who we have running for council and mayor, I think it's going to be a good group of people, regardless of who wins. I think the voters are not going to lose. So I look forward to those things happening and working with, whether I win or not, I still plan on staying involved and helping.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to closing statements. There may be some important issues that we haven't spoken about, and if that's the case, would please make sure you bring those up in your closing statements. But we'll reverse our order from where we started. We started with the staff report. So, Mr. Teagle, I'm going to start with you for your closing statement.
There are a lot of small things that you can do with groups of people, like go back to the Friends of Sharpsburg. We're going to reopen this library here in a couple, 3 weeks with a schedule of children's programs on Saturdays, which is a positive thing. We've got a monthly schedule of talks. We've got scheduled. We did the first one back in June as a kind of a trial balloon, where we have somebody from outside come in and give a presentation to the community. You can do a lot of these things with outside groups. You can use the Baptist church across the street to help with, we call it, it's ugly, but we say it's an adopt a granny, where you go in and change some little old lady's light bulbs that she can't reach, or you change her battery in her smoke detector. While people are grousing about where the city is cutting the grass, we go in there with a weed whacker and trim it up for them. We don't worry about that. It's the community, it's people in the community doing it. You got to have that in addition to the town. I'm a good old conservative Southern boy, and we take care of ourselves. We do things ourselves. We don't rely on the government to do it. Nothing wrong with the government setting the tone. Nothing wrong with the government managing the money. But you got to have both of them.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And Ms. Davenport, your closing statement.
Well, I do want to say thank you for putting this forum together, the Chamber of Commerce. I've ran, I think, it's my 4th time running. This is the first political forum I've ever been invited to, so it's a great opportunity, and I do want to thank you for that and your time. There's so many things that Tom and I agree on. I mean, I know he's new to the town, newer than I am. I feel like I've been there forever. But I've seen his community involvement up to this point, and he's really been an asset to the town. I don't think I am going to say, regardless of who wins, I think you're getting a winner, on council to represent the town. So I am excited about that. But yeah, I do want to, talk about implement the same things, talking about trying to work with the county, and especially working with my neighboring towns, town of Turin, Sonoya, to make a tri-city. I would like to have a tri-town or a tri-city so that we're coordinating the same kind of events that they're having also, so we can all catch traffic and everybody gets to benefit. And I think once we are able to do that and develop those relationships with our neighboring town, you will be able to see some type of, more commercial merchant growth in our town. So I look forward to that.
I appreciate that. Ms. Davenport, Mr. Teagle, thank you both for being here tonight and for running. And of course, to both of you, good luck on November 6th.
Thank you, I appreciate it. See y'all at the polls.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for joining us for these forums brought to you by the Noonan-Coweta Chamber of Commerce and the Chamber's Voice of Business Committee. Thanks also to our candidates for coming tonight and for running for these important offices in our community. I'd also like to thank the Central Educational Center for providing tonight's setting, and I'd like to thank the CEC broadcast students, Michael Britt, and New Link Channel 10 for taping and broadcasting tonight's forums. Thanks also one more time to Coweta Fayette EMC for sponsoring this year's forums and for sponsoring the Chamber's Political Hobnob on October 11th. Again, we appreciate our candidates, and we hope all of you get out and vote on November 6th.